Hello learners, the topic of today's talk is pollution and health hazards. This topic is in Unit 18 of Block 4, Science and Technology, a foundation course for first year undergraduates. In the units 1 to 14 of this course in Science and Technology, you are introduced to the various benefits conferred on humanity by it. But today, we are going to talk about the heavy price humanity is paying for all those benefits. We are paying in terms of environmental pollution and health hazards. Man has solved several old problems like hunger, disease, early death, but he has created new problems in the form of environmental pollution and health hazards. For short-term gains, he has created long-term problems, some of which threaten his own life. Science and technology is playing a significant role in improving the quality of human life. Today, most people enjoy a better standard of living than the earlier generations. There has been tremendous increase in agricultural yield, marvelous improvements in transportation and communications. Today, you can send a message across the globe in a matter of seconds. This is through the internet. The world has turned today into a global village. Man, in his efforts to improve his comforts, has altered the environment adversely. Now, every region of the earth is polluted to dangerous levels. The ecological balance is disturbed and natural resources depleted. There is a great urgency today to identify the different types of pollution and find out ways to control them. Pollution. You must have heard of this term. It is widely used in newspapers, radio, television. What is pollution? Pollution may be defined as an unwanted change in environment which is harmful to the living organisms. This is brought about by the addition of harmful chemical substances or energy in quantities and rate that are harmful to the environment. What is environment? Environment has been defined as the sum total of all the conditions and influences that affect life and development of organisms. Now, what is health? Health, according to World Health Organization, is not just the absence of disease and deformity, but a state of complete physical, mental and social well-being. Diseases and poor health place a heavy burden on the individual, the family and the nation. Types of pollution. There are 8 types of pollution. 1. Air pollution, water pollution, land pollution, sound pollution, chemical pollution, heat pollution, radiation pollution, etc. Agents that pollute are called pollutants. Air pollution. Pollution of air takes place by the introduction of chemicals in the form of waste. It is estimated that 100 million tons of chemicals in the form of waste are introduced into the air every year throughout the world. These are in the form of smoke from industries, power plants and automobile exhaust fumes. Do you know New Delhi, which is the capital of India, is the 4th most polluted city in the world, and I am not surprised if Hyderabad is closely following that. Another surprising thing is Beijing is one of the least polluted cities in the world. Now, air pollutants are of 2 types. 1. Primary pollutants and secondary pollutants. The primary pollutants are of 5 types. 1. Carbon monoxide, hydrocarbons, oxides of nitrogen, oxides of sulfur and particulate dust matter. Carbon monoxide. This is also written as you all know, CO. This is produced when organic substances containing carbon and hydrogen are burnt incompletely in air. Carbon monoxide is given out into air in large amounts every day by our gas stoves, automobiles, power plants and forest fires. The carbon monoxide is a very dangerous gas. When inhaled, it combines with the hemoglobin of blood and thus reduces the supply of oxygen to tissues and cells, thereby cutting down the supply of oxygen. This causes early death. Carbon monoxide also causes blurred vision, headaches and unconsciousness. Second is hydrocarbons. As you all know, hydrocarbons is nothing but materials containing carbon and hydrogen. These are organic compounds containing carbon and hydrogen. These escape into air through leakage from sources such as cooking gas, diesel, petrol, kerosene, etc., all through incomplete burning of fuels. The third primary pollutants are oxides of nitrogen. There are two types of oxides of nitrogen which occur in air. One is nitric oxide and the other is nitrogen dioxide. They are considered to be major primary pollutants. They contribute to the formation of acid rain, photochemical smog, ozone depletion and greenhouse effect. The sources of these oxides are automobile engines, nitrogen fertilizer factories, explosive factories, sulfur acid plants which use the lead chamber method. The fourth type of primary pollutants are oxides of sulfur. There are two types of oxides of sulfur. One is sulfur dioxide, the other one is sulfur trioxide. Sources of these are fertilizer plants, thermal power plants and burning of fossil fuels. These oxides are important air pollutants being present in the air all over the world. They also cause acid rain. The fifth primary pollutants are particulate matter, particulates. These are made up of fine dust particles. They may be cement, silica, asbestos. These remain suspended in air. Some of these particles absorb metals such as lead, zinc, cadmium. Sources of these particles are burning of fossil fuels such as coal, charcoal, asbestos mining operations, cement and glass industries. These particles enter the lungs of human beings during breathing and cause lung diseases such as asbestosis and silicosis. Both of them are lung cancers. These primary pollutants may interact with one another and produce what is known as secondary pollutants. Example is photochemical smog. Now, this is a very dangerous pollutant and it is causing death in many industrial countries like England. The word photochemical smog, the word smog is a combination of smoke and fog. Now, this is formed during the presence of sunlight. This is formed by the interaction of oxides of nitrogen, ozone. The main constituent of this smog is pan or peroxyacetyl nitrate. It appears as a brown haze. This causes respiratory problems, nervous disorders, apart from headaches and eye problems. Even plants seem to be affected by PAN. Acid rain. Some of the primary pollutants like oxides of sulfur, oxides of nitrogen dissolve in the rainwater and form what is known as acid rain. The acidity of rain is thereby increased. There are several bad effects because of acid rain. 1. Direct damage to plants and forests. Acid rain leaches out calcium and magnesium from soil, thereby making it poorer. Affects marine life, corrodes statues, monuments and large buildings made of marble, slate and lime, etc. I will be telling you something about the greenhouse effect. What is greenhouse effect? Greenhouse effect is the warming of the earth because of accumulation of certain gases such as carbon dioxide, methane, chlorofluorocarbons and oxides of nitrogen. Now, all of you have learnt in your schools about the earth being surrounded by a gaseous envelope. Now, this gaseous envelope, it contains nitrogen around 79%, oxygen around 20%, carbon dioxide around 0.0% and some inert gases. The carbon dioxide as such is not toxic, it is not a pollutant. It is very essential for photosynthesis, the life sustaining reaction. You all must have learnt in schools how carbon dioxide forms starch in the presence of sunlight, carbon dioxide. Now, what is happening today is that the percentage of carbon dioxide is increasing from 0.03% to 6%. This increase because of combustion of fossil fuels and different industries, carbon dioxide and other greenhouse gases, they are trapped in the atmosphere. They shouldn't have been in that percent. When they are there in the atmosphere here, the sun rays which hit the earth are trapped here. The heat is trapped by the greenhouse gases. So, what happens? The earth is warmed. Now, when the earth starts getting warm, which is known as global warming, the polar ice caps that present in the North Pole and the South Pole, they start melting. Now, when the ice caps are melting, what happens naturally? The water level rises, the sea levels are rising, and today, day to day, sea levels are rising inch by inch. And what happens when the sea levels rise? They are going to rise by few meters. Cities like London, Florida, Glasgow, then our own Calcutta, Bombay, Madras, they will all be submerged. So, this is the effect of greenhouse gases. I would like to tell you something about depletion of ozone layer. In this atmosphere, we have a belt called ozone layer. Now, this ozone layer protects the earth from harmful ultraviolet rays which come from the sun. Now, what is happening today is by our technology, by production of certain chemicals like CFCs, chlorofluorocarbons, which are also known as freons, we are damaging this area, we are damaging the ozone layer. So, there is a hole here. Now, creating holes in the ozone layer, the ultraviolet rays, UV rays, they are coming in and they are causing damage. They can cause skin cancer. Now, these holes, these are known as holes in the sky or holes in the ozone layer, they are present in the area near New Zealand and Canada. You know something? The New Zealand people do not come out from their buildings after 11 o'clock. The school children are not allowed from their school buildings after 11 because of the hole in the ozone layer and the harmful ultraviolet rays which are coming through the ozone hole. Now, I would like to tell you something about the hazards due to air pollution. These so many air pollutants present in the air, they are causing several health hazards. Number 1, carbon monoxide. This gas, it has a preferential combination with hemoglobin of the blood to form what is known as carboxyhemoglobin. Instead of oxygen combining with hemoglobin to be taken to different tissues and cells, carbon monoxide combines with hemoglobin to form carboxyhemoglobin and is taken to different tissues and cells. So, what happens? The tissues do not get oxygen and therefore, they cannot function normally and the individuals suffer and he may even die. Gaseous pollutants such as oxides of sulfur and nitrogen get deposited in human lungs. This causes chronic lung diseases like cancer. Silica and asbestos particles, they are also deposited in human lungs and they cause lung cancers known as silicosis and asbestosis. As I told you, ozone depletion, it allows ultraviolet rays to come in and cause skin cancer. Another air pollutant is photochemical smog, which is also killing hundreds of people in developed countries. You must have heard of Bhopal gas tragedy. Now, this tragedy of huge dimensions, it occurred in Bhopal, which is the capital of Madhya Pradesh. This tragedy occurred in 1984. A pesticide company which belongs to Union Carbide, there was a leakage of a deadly poisonous gas called MIC. Methyl isocyanate. This gas killed hundreds and hundreds of people on that night, and today there are several thousands of people who are suffering because of side effects in the form of cancers and different respiratory diseases. Water. Water pollution. You must be knowing that water is very important to keep our metabolism at an optimum level. We need water to drink, we need water for personal use. Now, in a country, most of the rivers and lakes are polluted. Thereby, the water from these sources become unfit for drinking. In fact, biological organisms need water to keep their metabolism at an optimum level. Now, rivers and lakes and seas, they provide us water. Now, with industrialization, most of the factories and different industries, they were situated on the banks of river, for example, the Ganga. Why? Because these rivers, they provide a source of water for the plants and then they let all the effluents into the river. It was very convenient for them, but they did not think of the long term consequences. The result, most of the rivers in our countries are polluted and they have become unfit for drinking. Polluted water is a source of many waterborne diseases. These are typhoid, hepatitis, dysentery, diarrhea, cholera. The sources of water pollution are power plants, fertilizer factories, steel and paper mills, sugar factories, oil refineries, automobile factories. Community wastes such as sewage, garbage from rural and urban areas are all let into rivers. Fertilizers and pesticides, insecticides and other agrochemicals also find their way into the rivers and lakes. Nuclear and thermal power plants, they use water to cool their systems and so they release large amount of hot water into the rivers. Acidic waters come from mining operations, petroleum wells, and drilling operations, and oil spills arise through leakage of oil tankers. Even underground water is polluted with chlorides, fluorides, and nitrates. The pollution seemed to occur due to the seepage of pollutants, waste, and agrochemicals, industrial wastes. Industrial wastes contain lead, cadmium, mercury. Mercury is a very dangerous metal entering water. Mercury gets concentrated in the food chain. Mercury poisoning can be fatal, as the Minamata disease in Japan. Now, when the water flows from the soil into the river water bodies, it carries along with it fertilizers, pesticides, etc. The result is that the lake or the river becomes very rich in nutrients. Now, this encourages what is known as the algal bloom. Now, this occurs in the lakes or ponds. This algal bloom uses up all the nutrients in the lake, and it grows and multiplies, and then it may die. So, this sort of a unbalanced growth causes other life to die. This is called eutrophication. Eutrophication. Now, I will be talking about land pollution, also known as soil pollution. As the population grows, we have had to increase our agriculture. Now, how do we do that? We did this by using agrochemicals like fertilizers, herbicides, pesticides, etc. Now, all this is applied to the crop plants here, but it has been seen that these chemicals are getting into the food chain. For example, these crop plants are eaten by man, and these crop plants, they are forming a part of a food chain. Now, these chemicals which happen to get into the crop plants pass through insects, frogs, snakes and eagles. So, at every stage these chemicals tend to get concentrated, and this is known as bioconcentration. By increasing the crop plants through fertilizers, these chemicals have entered man and animals which we use like cow, buffalo, etc. for our milk and other products, and these are causing harmful diseases. In fact, pesticides today are found in human blood. So, what are the health hazards? Fungicides, fertilizers, etc. have entered the human system, and toxic metals such as zinc, cadmium render plants grown in these areas unsafe. Now, I would like to tell you something about sound pollution. Sound pollution is also known as noise pollution. Sound is an important means of communication, and it can be sweet like the cuckoo's bird, but when it becomes loud and harsh, it becomes noise. For example, the road traffic is causing a lot of noise pollution. The loudness of sound is measured in decibels. The Central Pollution Board of India has prescribed the following permissible sound levels for cities. They are, each city is divided into 4 zones: industrial, commercial, residential and sensitive areas, and as you can see in the table, there are some limits for it. For example, in industrial zone, 75 decibels in the daytime and 65 in the night. Commercial, 65 decibels in the daytime, 55 decibels in the night. Residential, 50 decibels in the daytime, 45 decibels in the night. Sensitive areas like hospitals, schools, etc. The limit is 50 decibels in the day and 40 decibels in the night. The permissible maximum noise levels are given in the table below. Road traffic, permissible level is 70 decibels, factory work 85 decibels. Now, another important pollution is radiation pollution. Now, most countries like to use nuclear energy for power generation, but this is causing problems because the nuclear wastes have to be carefully disposed of. Now, there are several health hazards because of radioactive emanations. Some of them are like cancer. India is one of the few countries which has promulgated acts to protect the environment. Before 1984, there were 3 acts. They are Water Act 1974, the Water Cess Act 1977 and the Air Act 1981. But after the Bhopal gas tragedy, the Government of India promulgated 2 more acts. They are the Revised Factory Act 1987 and the Environmental Protection Act 1986. It is hoped that the environmental protection laws and awareness amongst people would certainly take us towards the preservation of environment.